I was inspired by listening to Richard from a question he had on the TSP, the Survival Podcast, show 1589. And he said something about YouTube that I've often wondered and I've thought a lot about. And I thought it'd be a cool thing to show many different aspects of what I do in permaculture for the simple reason of I think we need to show failures, and I'm going to show you some. And I'm going to show you the progression of a food forest with a normal person that's not, a big name or anything like that. And I think it'd be nice to show a series of different things like that. And Richard, that was a great question. Basically, he said you get on YouTube and you see all these people talk about planting a food forest and it's their backyard and they plant a bunch of trees and you never see anything else about it. And I think a lot of the reasons for that is a lot of miscommunications, misunderstanding, and some blatant lies about permaculture that if people understand them and they know what they're getting into and why they're getting into them and have a reason for getting into them, all of a sudden everything works out just the way it's supposed to be. And I personally am so glad that I got into permaculture. It has totally changed my way of thinking after taking Jeff Lawton's PDC. It clarified a lot of things about permaculture that is very confusing by watching a lot of YouTube videos or reading a couple of books and stuff like that. So I'm going to go show you the food forest, and I'm going to show you a failure. It's when I look at it now, it's kind of stupid. But at the time, I was excited. I was planting stuff, and I'll show you by not thinking what'll happen. Now, Richard, this is, to me, an average progression of an average food forest from an average person that doesn't have woofers, helpers, and everything like that. I've got about 2 acres here, and I've only got about a quarter of it in production. And it's already getting to the point where it's almost more than me and my wife can consume. But 4 years ago, I planted those peach trees, center screen, they're the biggest trees. And then I just started planting trees down through here, and before my PDC, there were some things that I messed up on, there's no doubt. But this is going to fill in all the way down through here. It's fairly large. In the middle, I've got raised beds because it's part of zone 1 for me. I can walk out of my front door and be here in about 60 seconds. But this is the progression of a food forest from just somebody in their backyard doing it. Now, one of the big things that I think that the reason that you don't see people after they get all excited about permaculture keep putting stuff online is they believe one of the biggest lies that I've heard over and over again, that permaculture is lazy gardening. And I can tell you, there's nothing lazy about it. It's not as hard as when I used to do commercial marketing for the farmers market over in Chattanooga, doing it organically. It's not that bad, but it is, I mean, there's definitely work involved. You move a lot of mulch when you first getting started. Getting it implemented is a lot of work, and I don't think people quite gather that when they start. They think it's just going to be super, super easy. Now, this is what someone sees from the road, which I do that kind of as humor. But this is what someone sees from the road when they come up through here. And I've got a ton of food growing in this. Now all of the, besides the trees, are only about, this will be the 3rd year. So they really only have about 2 years of growing in there. And it's already getting extremely lush. And it's at the point now where people, get excited when they see it and stuff like that. But it wasn't that way for a couple of years. It looked pretty barren. And stuff was small, trees were just growing, different things like that. And I think people in our society today, if it's not instant, they don't stay excited about it, and they get frustrated with it, which is a shame, because now me and my wife come out here and it's just like a grocery store all over the place. Now, here's a Arkansas black apple, and this is one of the misconceptions I think people have about permaculture when they get involved with this. They hear, just like I did,
that you put down sheet mulch with cardboard and newspaper and cover it with 6 inches of mulch and you don't have grass problems. And I'm here to tell you that is bull crap. If you have any type of grass that is rhizome, like the Bermuda grass is, I don't care what you put on it. I don't care if you spray it with chemicals. I don't care what you do. You're going to have gas problems. And then someone that lives in the idea that all of a sudden they've got to have a perfect garden, they spend all their time maintaining and very little growing, and they get very discouraged because they're working for nothing. Another misconception I think a lot of people in permaculture have is they focus on these techniques, whether it be raised bed, whether it be a forest garden, a food forest. They don't understand how stuff goes together. Now I've got boxes inside of my forest garden or food forest, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's strawberries, there's basil, there's chives, there's horseradish, there's plums, there's blueberries, there's squash. And here's another good example about permaculture, why it's so cool. This squash plant is thriving. It already has fruit on it. You'll see that for half the day it's under the shade of this peach tree. This squash plant was out of the same seeds that I grew, planted at the same size, and it's nowhere near that. Without having the time involved in looking at something and observing over time, people don't get to understand that a lot of stuff that's on YouTube and that comes from the nurseries and everything else is nothing but horse crap. Apparently, in Tennessee, in Zone 7A, where we get pretty hot and intense sun, this is an understory plant and it likes it better. Now I can tell you from personal experience, when you first get into permaculture, one of the things that really screws up permaculture is regardless of what happens, you get on YouTube, you see everybody planting 300 fruit trees in 10 square feet, and they got 75,000 different varieties of herbs, and they don't know what to do with any of them. They don't know if the trees are going to grow. They don't know anything. They hear diversity without design, and all of a sudden now they're just getting they get overwhelmed. They find out there's a lot of stuff they grow they don't like, but they keep it there anyway. I mean, I grew some stuff from Eric Tonson, from his nursery, which was great stuff. More of the medieval type vegetables, see what they were. Got them, grew them, they did well. He has a great nursery. I didn't like them, they're out of here. I'm not going to waste any space on the diversity of something that I don't want. Now I'm just locking in on things that I do want. I like pears better than apples. I like the kiwis better than different things. Muscadines grow very well here. So now I've got about 8 different varieties of muscadines growing here. Now this is just me piddling. Probably, I can honestly say I'll spend probably an hour a day average out here doing something. Now it may be 3 or 4 hours I'm out here, but I'm doing more piddling at that point, looking around and just goofing around than I'm anything else. It's what I do for enjoyment. My business allows me in the summer to do this, and it's what I like to do. You know, we got the kiwis and more peppers and tomatoes and Jerusalem artichokes and Chase seedless trees and figs and all kind of cherry trees and this, that, and the other. And one of the cool things about doing this and observing, this tree right here is it's not a sweet cherry and it's not a sour cherry. It's very good to eat. Have no idea what it is. Me and my wife planted it here 14 years ago when we first moved here. I've got all these other cherry trees that I planted. Here in Tennessee, that's the only one that produces like mad. So if these other trees don't get up with the system, I'm going to graft this tree on all of them, and this is what I'll hopefully be selling in a backyard nursery for local use because it does so well. You want to talk about a failure. These fig trees I planted here before I understood design, before I understood thinking about things from a lot of different aspects and needs and everything like that. Now these are big, beautiful fig trees. These will be 12 feet tall by the time frost comes. They're going to be huge. They never produce a fig. And it's my fault, it's not their fault. And I keep them now just because they're lush looking and they do really well. And it's because of this tank. I did not think about everything that I needed to think about when I was putting the figs. I was just trying to cover up the ugliness of my big hog propane tank. Well, it stays cold, and it apparently stays cold enough that my fig trees right here don't do well. But I could go to another part of the food forest that I'm not showing you right now, which is on the other side of the house, and up against the house, those things are rocking and rolling. They're absolutely full of figs. I'll be eating figs on top of figs. But these in 4 years have never produced a fig because I put them up against something that's cold. Even though these get 8 hours of sunlight a day. Epic permaculture fail. Great lesson to be learned. And I'll let you in on another little failure that I had, that someone that gets, I don't know what it is about social media type stuff, but everybody wants to come up with their own little trick or technique or how they do it, and all that's cool because some of it's really good. These tomatoes that are sitting behind me right now, last year I grow a lot of heirloom tomatoes because I like them. I went on YouTube and I've got these big rebar wire cages that are kind of aggravating the store, and I'm like, I'm going to try something else. So I watched all these people talk about all these different ways that you can stake and hold up tomatoes and all that, and I tried several of them. I'm back to the cages because they're simple, they work, and the mess that I had trying to pick tomatoes last year taught me a very good lesson. Just because someone shows something on YouTube does not mean it's correct whatsoever. And I guarantee you a lot of those people that showed those techniques did not show it towards the end of the season because they had the same problems that I had. When you're running heirloom, big growing tomatoes, and you try to hold them up with strings, it collapses. It does all kind of stuff. There was a jungle. I've got all kind of volunteer tomato plants now, which is fine. But all that because I was listening to people that just wanted to have something new and cool. And this is the way we've been doing it here in Tennessee for as long as there's been re-rod rolls of wire, and it is the best. So Richard, I thought I'd show you what the progression of my personal food forest is. I love the question. I love Jack's answer on it because I think it's right. I just think a lot of people get into it thinking it's super simple, easy, lazy gardening. And once the system, I do very little work now, but to get the system up to where you see it now took a tremendous amount of energy. And I had to bring in a lot of material because to have that much mulch, you're just not going to start off with doing that the way that it is now. But learning that then, now on another section that I've got that I'm not showing you now, I've got pawpaw trees for grafting down the road that are specially pawpaw trees that's going to be covered in Jerusalem artichokes as an understory around these trees, so it's got mulch. I learned I would rather chop and drop and grow the chop and drop there than I would go and drag just trailer load after trailer load. That's one of the things you learn. But at the beginning, I just think people are fooled into the romance of permaculture without understanding the true down-to-earth energy inputs from a human that has to go into that and the design to make it work right. And they get frustrated because it's not immediate. They don't see the results. It doesn't look like Jeff Lawton's or Step Holzer's or Mark Shepard's place in 2 years. They get frustrated and they go on doing something else. That's the reason I think a lot of people do not show the end results of what they start.